So too many of you are swearing, and I want to teach you how to not swear. So the way that we're going to do this is with a regular expression and a DFA. And by not swearing, what I mean that is all strings over the alphabet A, B, C, D, such that they do not include A, B, C, D as a substring. So if you have a favorite four-letter swear and you do not want to say it, you can substitute the 4 letters A, B, C, D for your favorite 4-letter word. And of course, this can generalize to 3-letter words or 5-letter words or whatever you want, but I'm just going to demonstrate this with 4-letter words. Okay, so how are we going to make a regex for this thing? So let's think about how we would actually do this. So in order to make a regex, what we need to think about is, well, in the ABCD substring right here, we need to have the A first. So before the first occurrence of A, we can have any combination of B's, C's, and D's in any order, because if we want to avoid this thing, we better, if we don't have any occurrence of A, then we can have any combination of B, C's, or D's that we want. So at the very beginning, I'm going to have B or C or D whole thing star. Okay, so that will definitely allow us to have any combination of those, but of course we could have an A in the string somewhere. It's just that after it, we need to think about how to avoid having B, C, D in that order once we see an A. And of course, there could be any number of A's, of course. Okay, so let's think about what happens. So before the first occurrence of A, we can have any combination of B's, C's, or D's. Then what we're going to do is, let's say that we have an A, then what can appear right after it? And what we're going to think about is, in this part right here, I'm going to think about what can occur right after this A before the next occurrence of A. So the next occurrence of A, I'm going to handle that by putting a star on the outside of this whole thing, so that in this part right here, there's going to be no occurrences of A's. So the only occurrence of A is going to be right here at the very beginning. So then in here, we're thinking about what can appear between consecutive occurrences of A. Well, we can't have B, C, D immediately appearing after it. So let's try to think about what's going to fit inside of here. So inside of there, what's going to appear? Well, we could have epsilon, because we can have 2 A's right next to each other. That's allowed. Or we can have a single B. We're allowed to have that. Or we can have BC just by itself. Or now we got to think about, because if we allowed ourselves any combination of B's, C's, or D's after these, then we're screwed, because we would allow ourselves to have B, C, or D. So these ones are in isolation, but now I want to think about combinations of B, C's, and D's such that after them, I can have any combination of B's, C's, or D's that I want. So something here, so something, and then B or C or D star. So note that I couldn't put this alongside these ones and put these 3 inside of here, because then we would allow ourselves to have this, and that's clearly not what we want. So what can go in here? Well, let's think about how can we, so think about what combinations of B's, C's, and D's have to happen such that once they happen, then we are home free. We can have any B's, C's, and D's we want. Well, and there are many ways to do this, obviously, but one way to think about it is, let's go purple, and let's think, well, if I have a B by itself, then it doesn't matter what happens after that before the next occurrence of A, because we've avoided the ABCD substring. We can also have BD, so that, note that that avoids the C here, so then we avoid the ABCD substring. If we just have a single C, then that clearly is going to avoid the ABCD substring, because what occurred right before this was an A, so then we avoided the B right there. Or what we can have is a BCC, So note that this is not a D here, it's a C, and then now we've certainly avoided it because we have two C's here. We can also have a B, C, B, or a single D. Okay, so if either C or D appears, then it doesn't matter what happens after that. It's just if B appears, then it has to be that a B appears next, or a D appears next, or if a C appears next, it's either a C or a B. And those are all the possible combinations. So if you put this purple regex inside this little part right here inside the green, and then the green inside where the arrow is inside the red, then that is a regex for all combinations of strings that involve A, B, C's, and D's that do not include A, B, C, D as a substring. So I promised you a finite automaton. So one way to go about this is just to do an NFA, and that's pretty easy to do. So what we do is let's see, so what we're going to do is we're going to have A, and then B, and then C, and then D. So note the NFA that I'm building right here is for all strings that do have A's A, B, C, D as a substring, which is the exact opposite condition that we want. So one thing that we can do is convert this to a DFA and then complement the final and non-final states. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go with the NFA to DFA conversion. So let's give these names. I'm going to call the first state Q0, Q1, Q2, 3, and that guy over there is Q4. So I'm going to have, there's no epsilon transition, so I don't need to handle epsilon closure. In Q0, and I should actually name this state a little differently. I'm going to name it the set Q0 because with an NFA, I can be in multiple states at the same time when I'm doing the conversion. So when I have a B, C, or D here, then I'm just going to stay there because there's only one transition involving them up here. If I have an A, then I can be in 0 or 1. So I need to have an A transition, which goes to Q0, Q1. Okay, so then if we have a C or a D from here, the Q1 is not going to do anything on C or D. So we'll just do whatever Q0 did on C or D, which is, it means it goes back here. Okay, so then if we see an A here, well, Q1 goes nowhere on A, and Q0 goes to 0 and 1. So I'm going to have a self loop right here on A. On B, well, we need to be able to go to Q0 and Q2 because 0 goes to 0 on B, 1 goes to 2 on B. So I need to have a state called Q0, Q2, and you can probably see what the pattern is going to be here. So then if we see, let's see. So if we see an A right here, 2 does nothing on A, Q0 goes to 0 and 1, so I need to have a transition back on A. If I see a B here, then we'll just do whatever Q0 did because Q2 does nothing on B. So I'm going to go back to Q0 if that's the case. If I see a C, then I'm going to go to a state Q0, Q3. So I'm going to have a state Q0, Q3 for C. If I have a D, then I'm just going to do whatever the Q0's state did. So I'm going to go back to there on D. And then, let's see, so then on A, I'm going to go back to up here. If I have a B or a C, then I'm going to come back here. And if I have a D, then that means I'm going to go to Q0, Q4. So I'm going to have a 0, 4 state, which is final for now. So that's where D goes. And let's just make sure I did that right. Yep. And then if I have a 0 or a 4, then that's going to loop on everything. A, B, C, D. And of course, we need to complement what states are final, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to make that guy final, that guy final, that guy final, and that guy final. Cool. So that is a DFA for all strings that do not have A, B, C, D as a substring. And you can kind of see the A, B, C, D substring that we want to avoid because this is a dead state down here. And one fun fact is that this is actually a minimal DFA because we need to have this chain of length 4 anyway because we need to avoid that particular substring. So this is a minimal DFA, which is pretty cool. So I hope you found this interesting and now have the ability to not swear anymore. It's because you could build a regex and a DFA for all strings that avoid a particular 4-letter substring, and you can obviously fix this for any length substring that you care about. So hopefully that was interesting. Leave comments down below about not swearing and regexes and DFAs. As always, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. There are many other links in the video description if you want to support the channel further. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.